Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 30 of our Let's Play series for Football Manager 2016. Alrighty, so the season is just a few days away, and there's a few things we're going to cover before that. Where are we? So, transfers. As we saw last time around, we've made an offer for Rick Karsdorp in Newcastle player, so should get an offer for that fairly soon. I'm going to... As I mentioned, there's a couple of things we're going to change in terms of our squad. I haven't done that. I haven't actually made any changes between now and last episode, so I thought I'd do that now, and then we can pause the video. Probably run through the first game against Twente in 3 days, and we'll sort of, show you what's happened there. But so what we're going to do is send Nuri out on loan if we can. I'm not 100% sure whether it's the right thing to do, but excuse me. But we do have the recall thing. We're going to definitely have the recall clause on there, so. So if we need to, we're going to send him out there. So we're going to have the recall one here. We definitely want him to be a key player if we can. Make sure he gets lots of game time. We need to put his wages at 0%. So we're happy to pay his wages. So hopefully that attracts some better clubs or some more clubs to be interested in him. So we're going to offer him out for loan. And Duarte, we're going to actually offer him out for transfer listings. And put 2 million, so if we get a couple million for him. See how that goes. Cool, I think apart from that, that should be pretty good. So, looking at our centre-back, did have a little bit of a quick look in terms sort of off-screen about some centre-backs. We've got a couple of options here. If we jump into our shortlist here, there's a few options here. Obviously, Riedewald is out because he would have no interest in joining us, which is fine. So, we've basically got two options here. We've got Sven van Beek, who is at Feyenoord. Sort of saw him before, so he can play right back as well, but he's definitely, for me, he's just a central back, so right back would never come into it. Definitely be a centre back, but obviously capped by the Netherlands 4 times, 23 years old. He actually does have a little bit more potential as well. Feyenoord don't want to sell him, so the only problem we'd have is that he's probably going to cost quite a bit of money, which isn't actually a problem, because given our money situation, that shouldn't be an issue at all. We should be able to pay a lot of money for him, even if it's pay 15 million. I'd be happy to do that. Given that we've got so much money, I think he's actually a very, very good player. I think he'd probably be our number one centre-back starting, so really good positioning, good teamwork on that stuff. His physicals for a centre-back are really, really good. Great strength, which is always good to see. Decent jumping and heading. Nothing amazing, but good enough. Good marking, decent tackling, relatively okay technically. But he's got really good mental. This is probably the strongest part of his game. He's got 14 positioning, which is good. Probably want to get up to 15 or 16, to be honest. But his mental stuff up here is very, very good. So really good composure, concentration, and decisions, which are all very, very important for a centre-back. So, so I think that is really quite good. So I think he's the first option. He's obviously the more established option. Then we've got the other option here in Timothy Fosu-Mensah, who's at Man United, 19 years old. Obviously would need, is nowhere near as developed, but I think he's probably got a higher ceiling than Sven van Beek. So 19 years old. It says Man United aren't likely to sell, but he actually is interested in joining us now, where he wasn't before. So for a couple of seasons when he was 17, 18, he wasn't interested in joining us. So I don't know, guys. I reckon we could probably get him if we needed to. Probably have to pay a fair bit of money for him, but we could probably get him. I don't know, whether we go for another. I don't know whether we go for another sort of development project. We've got a couple in there, and Hendricks and Wesley Hoto, I think, can probably develop up quite a bit. But the thing is, I'm not quite sure. I don't think they're probably going to get to the level of that Timothy Fosu-Mensah can get to. So basically the decision we've got is whether we go for an established player in Sven van Beek. Maybe we won't be able to get him. Maybe they get Feyenoord's going to ask for ridiculous amounts of money. So if that's the case, then we probably won't have a choice. If they ask for like 30 million or something, well, we're not going to pay that for him, to be perfectly honest. Even though we do have a lot of money, I'm not going to pay that sort of ridiculous money for him. So if that was the case, then we'd go down for our second choice, which was Fosu-Mensah, and play sort of Hendricks and Wesley Hoto a little bit more until Timothy developed up a little bit more. So so Hugo Anderson as well, 18-year-old, he's got a really high ceiling, but he's not really someone interested in at the moment. Maybe once if he develops up a little bit more, we'd be interested. But so that's pretty much our options that we've got here, which is fine. I suppose we could go for Terence Congolo. I suppose he's more of a left back though, and he's not quite as good. So anyway, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to sort of we'll go for Sven van Beek first. If we can't get him, we'll go down for Timothy down there. And that's probably going to try and get one of those guys in for our centre-backs in there. Apart from that, our squad's really good. I don't think there's really anyone else that, really any other area that I'd really like to improve or anything. I think we do have a really good squad. Other big change that we've made is I've actually developed a new tactic. So we're going to keep with this one as our starting tactic. I think it works really well, especially for the Eredivisie. It's very, very strong in the Eredivisie. It's quite an attacking tactic. I think that we made it a little bit more defensively solid last season, which we sort of showed by our results last time around. We sort of did have a lot more clean sheets than what we did in the first season. So I think we made it a lot more defensively solid. And yeah, I think it worked out really well. So I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with to run with this for as our main tactic. I'm going to keep the 3-5-2. We didn't use it a whole lot last season. Now, our squad probably isn't amazingly suited to it, but I do like having a little bit of an interest to keep myself, interested in tinkering around with the tactics. So I'm going to sort of tinker with this. Play it every 5 games or something, and whatever sort of seems appropriate. And I'll sort of keep tinkering with it because it's not really working how I'd like yet. But I think the spine of it is there, and I think I'll sort of keep tinkering with that. So we're going to keep that one. But our third tactic is going to be our counter-attacking tactic. This here. So it's set up as the same formation. It's not generally. I would generally run with a counter-attacking tactic, having the 2 DMs and then the one central midfield, so a 4-2-1-3 rather than a 4-1-2-3. But I'm going to stick with this, given that this is sort of what we play with. It's what we're natural. So it's what we're this is our same formation. So I'm going to stick with this, see how it goes. I think it's still going to work okay. So we're going to run through this a little bit moment. So we're going to run a defensive mentality as defensive, but I'm actually going to switch between probably counter and defensive, depending on who we're playing, depending on how I think we need to play, how far back we need to sit, how far, how much long ball we need to play or anything like that. So that's going to switch. That's going to change quite a bit depending on the team we're playing. Actually, a lot of settings in this formation are going to change depending on the game. So we're going to run through some of the roles here. So central defenders, which is sort of pretty stock standard. Goalkeeper is pretty stock standard as well. We're not going to have distribute to fullbacks though, because we want to be playing long balls a little bit more. I'm actually going to tick on distribute to the flanks, because the flanks are pretty much going to be key to this formation to actually getting it to work. So obviously being defensive or counter, it's going to sit back quite a lot, going to sit quite deep, which is fine. So then we've got our 2 centre backs in here, which there's your stock standard. There's no player instructions on there. Then we've got 2 wing backs. So we've actually gone for the wing backs rather than going for complete wing backs. We've gone for sort of the step down, which are wing backs, which is a little bit more defensively solid. May even look at switching one of them to a fullback role, depending if I think it needs to be even more a little bit defensively solid. But I just don't want to compromise the link-up play between our 2 wide players, because inside forwards do sit sort of a long way forward. So it's fairly important that we get enough link-up play with our wing-backs. That's why I've gone for wing-back rather than the full-backs, but we may look at adjusting that depending on how things go. I've gone for a defensive mid to support here, so the reason I've gone for this rather than a deep-lying playmaker is the defensive midfielder role is a little bit sort of, I guess, more defensive. It doesn't, like the deep-lying playmaker can sort of step out a little bit more. They've got a little bit more license to be a little bit more attacking, where a defensive midfielder... actually going to switch you back to a defend role. Sorry, that should be there. There we go. That's better. So the defensive midfielder role is, especially on the defend role, is basically they're just going to sit there, sit in front of our back 3, and they're going to be very, very solid, and that's what I want. We may look at switching this to a deep lying playmaker if I think we're not getting enough link-up play through our midfield, but I'm hoping the box-to-box role is going to do that. So that's what we're getting on to next, the box-to-box role. So I think this is going to be fairly important to be quite a good link-up role. So box-to-box, obviously, as the name suggests, it sort of moves, for me, the way I see it playing is it moves vertically. It moves up and down vertically. It doesn't really go a whole lot out the wides, but it does provide a little bit of cover out on the left here if we need it to, for our inside forward, which is the attacking role. So that's why we've got the box-to-box role on this side rather than this side. So that's going to be quite important to get a sort of a, quite a link-up play there. So hopefully that works. We may look at adjusting that, but I think that's probably going to be okay. Then we're just going to play a stock standard central midfielder attacking role. We eventually have the close down more setting on there, just get a little bit more sort of closing down in this area, because most of these areas around here aren't going to close down massively. So have a little bit more closing down on the central midfield attacking role should be good. So it's pretty much a stock standard role. It's nothing too amazing. So I think that should be totally fine. So that's good. And then we've got 2 inside forwards. So I'm not 100% convinced about these. I'm happy with inside forward on the left because we've got Vischer and Eunice, who are really good players out on that left-hand role. Especially Eunice. I think having pace, and most counter-attacking tactics, especially this one, having pace on the wings is integral. And that's where I'm a little bit concerned about whether it's actually going to work well enough. I'm happy with the left because Eunice is a very quick player, and I think he's done really, really well. Sort of performs better than his stats would suggest. So he's very, very quick, which is awesome. Great dribbling as well. I think he's going to be very important to this formation, this counter-attacking tactic. So he's going to be our first choice out on the left whenever we can play him. Out on the right, though, we don't really have a whole lot of pace. I'm thinking, though, that maybe we're going to look at using El Ghazi out on the right as an inside forward. May even, to be honest, looking at maybe switching. If El Ghazi plays there, he's not particularly quick, but he's okay. He's got really good dribbling and stuff. May even look at actually switching this to a winger role, actually. A winger as a support role, which El Ghazi would suit perfectly. So El Ghazi would be a really good choice out there as a winger. It's pretty much our only winger. Nuri is to a degree, but not as much as El Ghazi. So maybe I should look at keeping Nuri, but yeah, I'm thinking probably not. So yeah, so we're probably going to look at maybe playing El Ghazi there. But if for some reason El Ghazi is not available, we're going to switch this back to an inside forward role and look at playing to a support role. Look at playing probably Sam de Jong. I think is going to be the perfect guy out there. Especially if we can get his competency up here, the attacking midfield right role. If we can get that up a little bit, so his performance is uncompromised. He's off the ball and stuff. He's not particularly quick, but he's off the ball and finishing and stuff, I think, is going to be very important. His decision making would be really good out here. I mean, same for Shane. Shane is obviously not quick at all. He's lost a bit of acceleration last season because he's getting up there a little bit, but he's not quick at all, which is probably why it limits him. And his finishing and stuff's not great. His off the ball and stuff isn't as good as Sam de Jong. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. So if Sam de Jong plays out there, it's going to be an inside forward. If El Ghazi plays out there, it's going to be a winger role. So that's what we're going to do. We've gone for a complete forward support because that probably suits Milik a little bit better than a deep lying forward. And I don't think we need as much link up play. So the complete forward still on support role still links up the play, but it's a little bit more attacking. It presses a little bit further up the pitches, which is what we want. So we want our centre forward role to be occupying a lot of space and to be giving our players a lot of, basically making really intelligent runs. So for example, we've got an inside forward. If we get the ball pumped out to our left, inside forward out here on the left, we want our centre forward here to not be sort of dropping back. We want them to sort of be up here, fairly high, making some good runs, actually opening up space for our inside forward to really attack into the box. So that's why I've gone for that role rather than the deep lying forward, which is what we play in our normal tactic. So yeah, so that's also a bit of an explanation on the tactics there about why we've gone for that. Like I said, I'm not 100% convinced it's solid yet, but I'm going to try it out early in the season before we get to the Champions League, because this is basically going to be our Champions League formation against the big teams. So this should be very defensively solid, and then try and hit teams on the counter-attacks. That's the whole idea behind this tactics, because as we've seen in the last two seasons, we get some good results playing our normal tactic, but it's just a little bit too open for me. Because these are fairly, especially with the wing backs. I think the wing backs is probably the big problem with this tactic. Not a problem, but it's sort of a catch-22. It makes us really good attacking formation, but it does leave a lot of fair bit of gaps at the back, especially having that deep lying playmaker role there. So we could look at maybe tinkering this role, but I'd actually rather set up just sort of a separate formation that's sort of a lot more defensively solid. We can sort of tweak this a lot more than the other one. So in terms of team instructions, we've gone for, what have we gone for? Actually gone for, this may seem a little bit counterintuitive, we've gone for a slightly higher defensive line. This is going to be adjusted depending on whether we're playing defensive or counter. So if we're playing defensive, it's going to stay at slightly higher. If we change to counter, we're going to drop it back to normal. So the idea behind this is we want basically, so having defensive mentality means we're going to be playing very, very deep anyway. So the idea behind it having this slightly higher defensive line is that we're going to be sitting very deep, sort of in our penalty box around here, but we don't want to be having too deep. We're going to be sitting right back in our goal, basically. So having this slightly higher defensive line means that we can actually push up a little bit more. And that's basically what I'm wanting. I'm wanting our players to sort of sit deep, but also be fairly compact. So that's the whole idea. I don't want to be sort of sitting deep but strung out, like with our sort of attacking players and stuff. I want to be sitting deep but be very compact. So we basically, the idea behind it is our defensive line, our back four and our back five even, are going to be sitting deep, but they're actually going to push up a little bit as well when we need to. So I'm hoping that's going to mean we're going to be very compact there at the back. We've gone for more closing down, because naturally the defensive mentality, I believe, I think from memory, is a little bit less closing down. It sort of stands off a little bit more, so that's the idea behind that. We'll look at that though, whether we need to sort of swap that back. Gone for short passing. Basically that's just because that's our sort of our forte. I don't really want to go for go route one, because for me that our formation isn't set to be that, because we're not at all good aerial threat team. So yeah, so we're going to go for the short passing to make use of our our technical abilities and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's good. So what else have we got here? We've got be more disciplined in terms of creative freedom. I'm not 100% convinced about that either. We'll see how it goes. This basically means that I want our team to be very, like the description there says, I want our team to be very robust and focused. So very basically following the tactical shape, not being too creative, getting too adventurous. I want us to be very, very disciplined defensively, and then we can, get... I think we've got creative and technical enough players to actually still make openings and stuff when we need to, if with that setting. But that one will be something I evaluate early in this season. And we're going to stick for positions as well, because we basically want to maintain our defensive formation when we're defending. And yeah, so that should be good. Good. What else have we got here? Actually, I'm going to stick on tighter marking as well. Which is good. There is the thing with tighter marking, it can be, your players can get sort of pulled around a little bit too much, but I'm thinking I'd probably rather that with our formation here. So basically I want our guys to be sort of sitting deep, but when someone comes into like their little zone, like the wing back, sitting back here, then basically once someone comes into his zone, I want him to stick to them very, very closely. I don't want him to give them any room. So basically they're going to sit deep, and we're going to sort of concede possession in this sort of early part of our half. But once sort of anyone gets back here in this area of our pitch, we're going to sort of be all over them like a God knows what. That's sort of the whole idea behind this sort of defensive tactic, is that's what we're going to do. So that's why we're going to go for tight marking. We're actually going to utilise opposition instructions quite a bit as well. Probably our forwards are going to probably our centre forward to close down their keeper if they play out from the back. And then our inside forwards, our two wide players, are actually going to close down their fullbacks always, for basically the whole game. They're going to man mark their fullbacks their entire game. That does compromise potentially our counter-attacking, but what I'm actually going to rely on, because generally you sort of want, for counter-attacking tactics, generally you want your wide players to be fairly high up the pitch, because then you can get like a long ball out to them, and they can be the sort of attacking play there. But what I'm going to basically do, I'm going to see what if we man mark their fullbacks, because a lot of teams sort of attack with their fullbacks a lot. If we can actually, excuse me, shut down their fullbacks a lot, that's going to really sort of stifle their creative play. What I'm going to rely on is basically win the ball back in the central area somewhere here, probably, and then actually try and feed it back through our central mid a little bit, and then it's going to give our wide players a little bit more time to actually get forward back again. And then once they're actually back further up the pitch, once it comes through our central area, we can actually feed it back out to their wide players again. So that's sort of the whole idea behind the tactic. I'll reevaluate like most of it, whether our wide players are getting drawn back too much and they're not effective enough in a counter-attacking sense. I'll reevaluate that. So there we go, guys. That's a big explanation about the tactic. Hopefully you understood that. Hopefully it works. I'll let you know sort of how we go over the next sort of, once we start playing and all that kind of stuff before we get to the Champions League. So I want to really start pushing with the Champions League. So it's our third season. So we're doing another 2 after this season to get our our goal of winning the Champions League in 5 seasons. I think we're going fairly well. I think we're building a very, very strong team. I think it's getting stronger over time, which is really good, so that's quite pleasing. Alrighty, so that's pretty much everything I think I wanted to cover at the moment. So training and stuff, I've covered it before. I'm not really going to cover it too much at the moment. It's pretty much stock standard here. Tactical fluidity is pretty much fine, so I'm just going to leave that off. I'm going to put down to teamwork. Match preparation training's dropped back down to what, 10, I'm not sure what it is, but anyway, the second notch there. May even drop it back another one, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, and then training's just on balance to an average intensity, so I've got medium intensity. So anything above medium intensity, like heavy, seems to create too many injuries for me. I don't like injuries, so I'd rather have a little bit less intense training than rather having those sort of injuries all the time. So yes, that's good. So what I think I'm going to do, guys, I'll probably run through to the game day against FC20. Hopefully get a little bit of movement about some of our players, and we'll just get a bit of a, get some stuff happening there. So I'm going to pause the video, guys, and we'll be back shortly. Okay, everyone, it's game day for 20, start of the Eredivisie season, which is good. So a couple of things have happened. What do we got here? Nuri had a huge amount of interest in Mr. Nuri, which is fine. So I've accepted some offers from Stade DeReam's racing club in France, Palermo in Italy, and also Frankfurt in the German First Division. So they're all top tier clubs, and he's always going to be a first team irregular at all of those clubs, so that would be really good. So if he gets quite a few games at some really good leagues like that, it'd be very, very good for his development. What else do we have? Duarte had a couple of offers, accepted some offers from Pescara and Verona in Italy for 2 million for Duarte, so that'd be good. So hopefully we can sell him, which would be awesome. Alrighty, Sven van Beek. We've had a 30 million offer accepted from Feyenoord, and we've just offered him a contract. We wanted a fair bit of money, about 50k a week, which is a lot of money, but we can afford it. We've got 225k available per week for our terms of wages, so we can definitely afford it, and obviously he's a current international, so yeah, so hopefully that's good. Leverkusen as well in Germany, that actually had an offer, transfer offer accepted well, so it's basically having to make a choice between us or them, so I did offer him a little bit more money to hopefully entice him to come to us, rather than go to Leverkusen, so we're still waiting on a response for that. So we're going to jump in and play, just going to start with our normal formation here. I don't think Twente is probably the right game to play. I think what we're going to do against, so look at our schedule here, probably pick out some games here. Actually, there's not a whole lot between a whole lot of games between our to actually get some experience for our counter-attacking tactic. I was actually looking to play like some away games like PSV and even like AZ and Feyenoord and stuff like that, but we don't play any of the big teams early. I suppose Heerenveen did quite well last season, didn't they? Willem II didn't, Roda not really, Canberra, Heracles, yeah, they're all really quite weak teams. So maybe we'll play the counter, even though it's a home game, maybe we'll sort of give the game against Twente, go with our counter-attacking tactic. I know it doesn't really fit like the formation, like you wouldn't really play it at home normally, but alright, I'll give it a whirl. I'll see how it goes. I may do a little bit of analysis for you guys as well. Analysis, I should say. Yeah, so we're going to play this formation, just do a little bit of a quick pick. So what are we going to play here? So Silason's going to be our number one. Vagiva's going to have to start here, because we still don't have our right back in the club yet, Karsdorp, so hopefully that's going to be here fairly soon. So obviously Van Ryn's me out for a while, so Vagiva's going to have to start there, which is fine. Veltman, Hendricks, I think that's fine for our two starting guys there. I've got Wesley Holt if we need to. Dice can start on the left. No, we're going to put Boyles, and he's got better conditioning. Christopher Ayer. What's Donny van den Beek? Where is he? Oh, he's in there already. Oh, why? That's right. That's not good. Alright, so probably, yeah, Christopher Ayer can start there. I think Donny van den Beek probably not. He's not an attacking player there, so that's fine. Manu G's out for a couple of weeks. 2-3 weeks, so that's fine. So I think we're putting Klaassen as our attacking central guy here. And I'm going to put in Ruben Jensen or John House-Sage in that box-to-box. Probably not Donny van den Beek yet. I don't think he's really a box-to-box player for me. Like he's decent stats, but I just think he's probably more of an attacking player for me. Alrighty, we're going to put in, I think probably give in a go to John House-Sage. He's got the best conditioning. Put Donny van den Beek in as a sub if we can. Probably in place of Lesser Shown actually. There we go. Alrighty, so I've got El Ghazi in the right, Fish on the left. I'm actually put in Sam de Jong actually. I know he's a bit down in conditioning. I'll give him a run out there. I want to get his ability up on the right, up here. As much as possible. And we've got Milik as our forward, Fisher on the left, which is fine. We've got Eunice there if we need to. Actually, I'm putting Eunice because he's got better conditioning. How's El Ghazi? 97%. Interesting. The only thing with this counter-attacking tactic, El Ghazi doesn't really suit a complete forward for me. Like, he can play it, but he's not as good as Milik, so I just think Milik's a fair bit down in conditioning. Alright, we'll give El Ghazi a run in the complete forward, see how it goes. So it's a little bit of an experimental team with an experimental formation, so I'm not quite sure how it's going to go, but it's only the first game of the season, so even if you lose or something, we've got time to recover. Which is fine. Alrighty, so they're playing a stock standard formation, same as us, which is fine, so that makes it easy. So what we're going to do in terms of our opposition instructions, we're going to get our... actually, probably no opposition instructions yet. Well, we are going to say closing down a lot on the goalkeeper. Just so we get a little bit of... I assume they're probably going to play out of the back, so we're going to do that. So that's fine. That's all we're going to do there. Just going to see how it runs. Because I basically don't want to have too many opposition instructions, because it can distort how your formation actually plays. So you can actually sort of notice things in games, or trends and stats and stuff that are actually not really part of your tactic. They're actually sort of a result of the opposition instructions. So that's why we're going to do that. So in terms of our actual tactics, I'm actually going to get our wide players here to actually man mark the defenders, the fullbacks, and actually see how this works. See if it compromises the formation too much or whether it makes us very defensively solid like I'm hoping it does. So that's what we're going to do there. We're going to jump in the team talk and say expected to win. Yep, there we go. And cool. Alrighty, done. So that's it. Alrighty, guys, I'm going to pause the video. We'll be back at some stage. I'll probably show you guys a bit of analysis either at halftime or full time. So we'll see you soon. Okay, everyone, a 3-1 victory to start the season, which was fairly good. So it was a little bit, like, it worked fairly well. I think the attacking stuff was really quite good. It was, the counter-attacking play was really good, especially on the transitions. We were very, very good on transition. So it was a little bit hard because obviously it's not really the right type of game to play. Because you think about like a counter-attacking tactic, like because it's a home game against a team, like for Twente, it's a game, it's an away game against a team that is better than them. So they're naturally not going to sort of come onto us and really attack us a lot. So they didn't leave us a whole lot of space behind, which meant that a lot of time we had possession. So I think we actually had more possession than we did. So generally that's definitely not going to be the case. We're definitely not going to have possession, more possession in the games, especially against like Champions League games. So yeah, so that was, I mean, it wasn't the right game to play, and I think that maybe sort of compromised some of our defensive play because we did have to ended up pushing out too far because they weren't obviously coming on to us. So they weren't pushing up a lot. They were sort of sitting back quite a lot, which meant we sort of naturally had to sit up a lot, and it sort of did compromise some of our defensive play. So it's going to be a little bit hard, unfortunately, to actually get a lot of trials of it before the Champions League. So yeah, but we'll see how we go. I think the basis of it are there. I'm going to run through some stats and some goals and stuff with you guys. Sam Dion got a goal on the return to the club, which was brilliant. Loved it. That was really good to see. So I'm actually going to say it was a good win. Why not? Look, make some good start to the season anyway. Get their morale up for the start of the season, which is good. So we continue to post-match analysis, which is fine. So El Ghazi played really well with 2 goals, so he did really well in that complete forward role, which is good. So we're running. Just going to show you the goals first. So this is the first goal, which was their goal. So they scored first, I think, didn't they? Yeah, they did. Yeah, so we turned the ball over there, as we could see. And you can sort of see here, like if you pause the game a little bit too much, like a little bit here, we're a little bit all over the show because they're coming out, because you can see they're actually not really pushing up a whole lot. Seeing as they're in the possession, they're not really all that highly pushed up. So that's forcing us to sort of come out and meet them, which is sort of compromising a lot of our defensive integrity, because our sort of idea is that for a counter, we're going to sit sort of deep, but be really quite compact. So, you know, it sort of didn't really do well. And this was Christopher Ayer's issue here, or problem, I should say. Boyleson didn't do amazingly well with it because he obviously has a bit of a liabilities with his positioning. So Antonio goes straight past Christopher Ayer, who just is all over the show, and then Boyleson comes essentially, which is a mistake. And then it's just left the goal open there, and he slots it past Sillison. So it wasn't great there, but I'm not too worried about it because I could see why. I can see why it happened. We weren't sort of, it wasn't the way we would normally like to be defending, and it's not going to be the way we're going to be defending against teams like, you know, a Real Madrid or a Man United or somewhere like that. They're going to be sort of, you know, really coming onto us because they're going to be favourites. Yeah. So this is our first goal. It's an El Ghazi goal. So brilliant. This is, I was waiting until you say it, but that El Ghazi header from outside the box is almost like a Van Persie World Cup goal, isn't it? I mean, you obviously can't see with the 2D, but it was a brilliant assist from John Halsater, and then yeah, a really great header from El Ghazi. So that was a really, really good goal. That got us back to 1-1. And then this was the second El Ghazi goal. So there's a fair bit of play to run through. I'm just going to sort of run through this just so you guys get a bit of an idea how it plays. So you can see we sort of won the knockdown on the cleared the ball to the flanks. That was the goalkeeper cleared the ball to the flanks. We won the knockdown, which is good. And now we're sort of on the not on the counter really, because they're sort of a fair way back, but we're on the sort of a bit of a transition. So we got lucky there that we sort of won the ball back again. Yeah, so this is not really luck. This is what I mean. This is not really how we're generally going to be playing it, because we're not going to be sort of in possession a lot of the time against the big teams like this. So this is not really sort of ideal, but we sort of were quite decisive on on our attacking play in general, which was quite good. So got lucky again there, which sort of lost the ball. We ended up getting it back, which is good. Yeah, so I suppose the good thing about like our team is that we are sort of quite technical anyway, so we can be patient when we need to be. So we do sort of have those few options. Really good assist from Boylerson, and then another good header from El Ghazi. So given he's not an amazing header of the ball, I mean, he's fairly decent, but he's not an amazing header of the ball. That was 2 really good headers from him, so yeah, that was good. Good to see. And then we come up for the Sam de Jong goal, which was good. Good. I love having him back at the club. It's very, very good. So again, this wasn't sort of a traditional counter-attacking goal. But yeah. I suppose it was, I think. If they think from here, they clear it and then we sort of win it back. Yeah, we do. Alright, that's cool. So he brings it out, gives it to Vigiva, makes a really good run. So this is sort of a bit of a defensive mistake from them. They sort of, number 6 here should have actually probably tracked Sam de Jong into the box, but Vigiva does well to track 2 players. Slots it through to Sam de Jong, who slots it home. So that was really good. Almost a carbon copy of actually their first goal. Is sort of coming into that area with big open space and then slots it home past the keeper. So none of those were really amazing counter-attacking goals. Not really how we'd end up sort of liking it to be, but I think we did fairly well. We had more shots on target. Then he had 2 shots on target, which was not bad. So I think it was okay for a initial start. So we have a quick look at a couple of things here before we wrap up the episode. So we look at our usual positional heat maps here. Alright, so this is our heat map here. So you can see it's fairly well spread. There's no major sort of hotspots. A little bit more angled to the right, which you'd probably expect, given it's a little bit more linked up over this right hand side. But we do have sort of the option over the left with a bit more pace and stuff, so that's fine. Yeah, so nothing too much amazing here with our sort of with the ball formation. I can't see anything sort of either good or bad particularly. It's all pretty stock standard. Actually, probably one noticeable thing is here that we did have our especially El Ghazi, who was our main striker. We got Milik on later in the game, about 70-minute mark. So El Ghazi particularly was drifted over this right hand side. You can see he's actually sort of off centre over to the right here, which is probably I suppose understandable given this is sort of a lot of link up play in this area. But that's sort of something interesting there that sort of does drift over to the right a little bit more. Everything else is pretty much fine. We look without the ball though, and see how we went here. So actually see we do sit fairly deep. I mean, again, we're going to sit a lot deeper in most games because we're going to sort of be seeing back, I would have thought seeing back here somewhere, but because obviously Twente actually probably sat deeper than what we did. And that sort of did, defensively it wasn't really amazing, so I'm not really sure we can read a whole lot into it. Some sort of good things in here though is this central midfield role here, this defensive midfield role, sits really quite close to the centre backs here, which is good. So that was quite pleasing there. Most of our guys did really well. I didn't see any problems with our wingers actually tracking their fullbacks. I didn't see any. I didn't think it gave us any problems. I don't think it compromised our play at all. So I'll keep an eye on that once we use it a little bit more. So have a look at Twente now. Just have a look at how they played. So obviously for their with the ball, they did sit quite deep, really. A little bit all over the show with their formation. There was sort of a lot of spaces over the play. They weren't linked up amazingly well. And then without the ball, actually with the ball, yeah. So their fullbacks didn't get forward a lot. You can see here, probably the left fullback got forward a little bit more than the right, but they're fairly conservative, so which to be expected really. And then nothing really too much amazing there. So look at some passing stuff now. So looking at how our passing worked. So look at completed passes here. Nothing too much really. A lot of longer passes than what we're normally used to, obviously, because we're not playing sort of short possession football as much. A lot more longer passes, which is fine, which is probably what we want. We're a little bit more decisive. Nothing too much. Probably a lot of balls out left here, actually. Given the heat map didn't really show a lot of activity out left, probably just as many balls out to the left as there is out to the right. So that's interesting there. Look at some intercepted passes here. So obviously quite a few goalie passes here. So obviously number 1, Silas, and he just sort of, you actually see here, brought the ball out a bit and then sort of kicked it off. I'm not too worried about that because that's sort of like, that's counter-attacking play. You unfortunately you have to expect to lose sort of these balls because you're pumping them out to the flanks, which is like a lot of these balls look like, sort of pumping them out here, and sometimes you're going to lose them. But a lot of time what these things don't show is actually you end up winning the second ball. So they may have like a fullback who heads it down, but you may actually win the second ball, which then you're still on the counter. So I'm not too worried about these. I'm not really going to pay too much attention to those. Have a look at some of our mistakes as well. Jump in here to mistakes. So we've got some missed interceptions and some lost balls. So a couple in here which weren't amazing, but I'm not really going to run into those in the minute because like I said, I don't think there's too much we can read into at the moment. They're sort of just trying to get an idea about how it's playing and all that kind of stuff. You look at some tackles in here though. A lot of tackles out wide actually, which is interesting. That is interesting. Alrighty, what about headers? So 1 headers, lost headers. So we lost 1 in there, which is okay. Okay, so it looks probably in the same place. So Eunice and Donny van der Beek both in the same 76th minute. Lost, obviously didn't amount to anything, but I'm not going to check or anything. I'm actually going to look at our crossing though, see what we actually did with our crossing. A lot more crossing from the right, which is interesting. So not a whole lot from the left, which probably be expected given this is sort of more of the attacking inside forward. You'd expect them probably to drive towards the box a little bit more, whereas this is like a support role, and especially like the fullback and stuff, you probably expect a few more crosses out here. So that's fine. So yeah, so like I said, there's not really a whole lot I don't think we can really read into it too much. A lot of shots from in close, which is quite good, quite pleasing. If you're getting a lot of shots out wide here, or outside the box, you're sort of in a little bit of trouble, because obviously means you can't penetrate the box, but quite a few shots in here, which is fine. So actually look at our scoring chances as well. So a lot of sort of chances, a lot of half chances on this right-hand side, and then there's a couple of clear cut on the left, so that is interesting. Cool, cool. Right, like I said, I'm not going to read too much into it. It's just sort of getting a bit of an idea in my head about how it works and some things to keep an eye on, all that kind of stuff. So that was good. So a good start to the season. So, alright, Milik wants an improved deal. We did rejecting a bunch of offers from our guys, but they're all sort of really low offers. Yeah, so that's fine. So actually, I'm going to give him a new contract. I'm pretty happy with that. We can afford to do it and all that kind of stuff. So that is good. Alright guys, 36 minutes of the episode. So I'm actually going to end the episode here. And yeah, I hope you're enjoying this series. Hope you're enjoying today's episode. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And as always, it'd be amazing if you could subscribe to the video and like the subscribe to the channel and like the video if you haven't done so already. That would be enormously appreciated. Alright guys, I'll see you all for next time.